I saw her legs first. She stepped out of my dad's car like she belonged there. Long cream coat, red heels, a smug smile painted on her lips as she looked around the school parking lot. But I knew that profile. I had memorized that voice, that laugh, that scent. It was Angela Carter, my 11th grade English teacher, the woman I admired, the woman I told everything to, the woman who told me to always look for truth in a story. My hands were trembling as I ducked behind the gym doors. I felt the cold concrete scrape my palms, but I barely noticed. My breath was shallow. My ears were ringing. And in that moment, I knew, deep in my gut, that something was horribly wrong. Because my dad, Philip, never drove anyone but my mom. And my teacher had no reason to be getting out of his car at 6:30 in the morning. Something about their closeness. It screamed intimacy. It screamed secrets. And it was about to burn everything I loved to the ground. Before I continue, I want to say a massive thank you to all our subscribers. If you are new or have been watching but have not yet subscribed, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button. It is what fuels this channel and keeps us going. And do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Now, back to the story that flipped my world upside down. My name is Sarah, I am 17, and I live in a quiet town in Kansas with my parents, or at least I used to, before everything changed. My dad, Philip, was the type of man who worked late, coached my brother's baseball team, and brought my mom flowers on Sundays. My mom is soft-spoken, hardworking, and the reason I want to be a writer someday. Then there was Angela Carter, my teacher. My favorite teacher. She made me feel seen in a way no adult had before. She told me my voice mattered. She even stayed after class to help me polish my essays for college. So when I saw her step out of my dad's car that morning, I wanted to be wrong. I needed to be wrong. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she needed a ride. Maybe her car broke down. But why would she look around like she was hiding? Why did my dad's eyes follow her like he had just kissed her goodbye? At home that evening, I studied their faces. My dad hummed while chopping vegetables like nothing happened. My mom chatted about a neighbor's new baby. I felt like I was living in a house full of strangers. The next morning, I asked Angela if she had a car problem. She blinked fast, then smiled. Too wide. No, sweetie. Everything's fine. Sweetie. My stomach flipped. That night, I checked my dad's phone while he was in the shower. He always left it charging in the kitchen. There were no messages from Angela. No calls. Nothing suspicious. But the name Annie C had 3 heart emojis next to it. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Who the hell was Annie C? And why did I already know the answer? I could not sleep that night. I kept replaying her face, her voice, her lie. The next morning, I did what I never thought I would. I followed my dad, told my mom I had early study group, and slipped out with my backpack half-zipped and my heart racing. His routine never changed. Coffee. Kiss on the cheek. Out the door by 6:45. But this time, he did not go to work. He parked near the community park, behind a line of trees that blocked the road from view. I stayed low in a friend's borrowed car, just far enough to see without being seen. 10 minutes passed. And then she arrived. Angela. In jeans. No makeup. Smiling like she had just woken up from a dream she never wanted to end. She slid into the passenger seat. And they kissed. I froze. I could feel my heart pounding in my throat. My ears were hot. My hands were sweaty and shaking. They kissed like people who had done it before. Like people who knew each other too well. Like 2 halves of a secret that had been kept far too long. It was not a mistake. It was not just a ride. It was a full-blown affair. And she had the nerve to call me sweetie. I did not go to school that day. I drove around until my gas light came on. Then I sat in the lot behind a gas station and cried. It was not just betrayal. It was confusion, disgust,
Shame.
my favorite teacher, my role model, my family, all twisted into something dirty. That night, I confronted my dad. I stood in the hallway and asked, "Who is Annie C?" He did not answer right away. I screamed it. My mom came running. And then I said the words that made her face drain of all color. "She is Angela Carter, my teacher, your mistress." My dad's jaw clenched. He did not deny it.
My mom stared at him.
And then at me. She whispered, "How long?" He looked at the floor. "Over a year. 1 year. While we took family pictures. While we went to church. While my mom bought him cologne for their anniversary. While I sat in Angela's classroom thinking she cared about me." That night, my mom locked herself in the bedroom. My dad slept on the couch. I lay awake listening to her sobs through the thin walls. The next day at school, people stared. I do not know how they knew. Maybe someone saw me following him. Maybe someone else had already known. Maybe Angela said something. During English, she did not look at me once. I skipped lunch and hid in the library. By fourth period, someone slipped me a folded note. "Guess you are not the favorite anymore." No name. Just ugly handwriting. I went home early that day. And when I got home, my mom was packing a suitcase. I watched my mother zip her suitcase with trembling hands. "Where are you going?" I asked, though deep down I already knew. Her face looked different, swollen from crying, but also
Hardened.
like something in her had snapped and could never be put back together. "To my sisters," she said without looking up. For a few days, I stood in the doorway like a child again, hoping she would say, "Come with me," or "Everything will be okay." But she did not. She kissed my forehead, grabbed her keys, and walked past my father without a word. When the door slammed behind her, the silence was suffocating. That evening, my dad cooked dinner like it was just another Tuesday. I did not eat. I could not. I just sat there and watched him slice into a roast, as if he had not ruined everything. "Sarah," he finally said, "you are old enough to understand that adults make mistakes." "Mistakes?" I whispered. "You cheated on your wife. With my teacher. That is not a mistake. That is sick." His eyes flared. "You do not know the full story." "I do not want to know it." I ran upstairs, locked the door, and ignored his knocking until it stopped. The days that followed were worse than the betrayal. Rumors spread fast. People stared. Whispers filled the halls at school. Angela was on leave, but I knew she had probably been asked to step down quietly. She had lost everything, but so had I. One afternoon, I found my mother crying over a photo album. I sat beside her, and we flipped through pages of fake smiles and family vacations that now felt like lies. "Why did he do it?" I asked. She wiped her nose. I stopped asking why. "Some men just break you, even when you think they love you." That line stayed with me. By summer, my parents filed for divorce. Angela left town. My school year ended in isolation and anger, but somehow I kept going. Because I had to. And because the worst kind of heartbreak is not the one that makes you cry, it is the one that changes how you trust, how you love, and how you see the world. Now, years later, I am in college, far from Kansas, rebuilding from the ashes of a life I thought I understood. And sometimes, when I hear my new English professor say something wise, something powerful, I smile to myself. Because I learned the hardest lesson no textbook ever taught. I learned how to survive. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more real stories of heartbreak, survival, and strength. Your support keeps this channel going, and you never know who might need to hear this next.